You have no idea how many people will live their entire lives in silent frustration because they couldn't summon the courage to chase the dream burning inside their chest. They sit in rooms they hate, surrounded by people who don't inspire them, wearing a mask that hides everything they truly are. They wake up every morning with a dull ache in their soul, knowing deep down they were built for more, but they lie to themselves. They say it's too risky. They say it's too late. They convince themselves that playing it safe is the smart thing to do, when really, it's just fear dressed up in logic. They've given up on themselves before they even started. That's not life. That's slow suicide. That's a prison with invisible walls. And the worst part is, you built it yourself. You were not created to blend in. You were not born to be background noise in your own story. You've been handed this miracle, this one shot at existence, and you're wasting it waiting for a moment that doesn't exist. The right time is a fairy tale told by cowards to make themselves feel better about standing still. You're waiting for clarity, for motivation, for a sign from the universe. Let me tell you something raw. No one is coming. The world owes you nothing. Life doesn't reward the most talented, it rewards the most relentless. The ones who act despite fear, not the ones who let fear become their excuse. Every time you hesitate, every time you say, maybe tomorrow, you lose a piece of your fire. And eventually, if you're not careful, that fire becomes a flicker, then a shadow, then gone. You'll look in the mirror one day and see a stranger, a version of yourself that never truly lived, just existed. I don't say this to discourage you. I say this because you need to feel the pressure. You need to understand the stakes. You're gambling with something more valuable than money or time. You're gambling with your destiny. And most people lose because they never realize they're even playing. They drift. One day becomes a week becomes a month becomes a year. Before they know it, they've built a life completely disconnected from the vision they once had. That childhood fire, that ambition that used to keep them awake at night, replaced by routine, watered down by comfort, numbed by distraction. They didn't kill their dream all at once. They did it slowly, quietly, by choosing easy over purpose 1,000 times. But you, if you're hearing this, you still have a shot. You still have time to wake up. You still have the ability to fight for the future you know is possible. The difference between those who make it and those who don't isn't luck, or intelligence, or connections. It's the decision to stop tolerating mediocrity. It's the courage to get uncomfortable, to face fear and move anyway, to walk into the unknown with nothing but belief in yourself. That's where greatness is forged, not in comfort, not in safety, but in chaos, in challenge, in the moments that break most people. You want to know what separates winners? They don't fold under pressure, they rise because of it. They don't avoid fear, they chase it down, beat it into submission, and use it as fuel. That's the mindset. That's how you escape the cage. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've watched ordinary people do extraordinary things because they refused to quit. I've seen men go from broke, depressed, and directionless to powerful, sharp, and dangerous because they made a decision. One moment where they said, enough, I'm not living like this anymore. And from that moment on, they moved like their life depended on it, because it did. They stopped asking for permission. They stopped explaining themselves to people who didn't believe in them. They stopped playing the victim and started acting like warriors. And slowly, painfully, they built a life worth waking up for. Not perfect, not without struggle, but real, authentic, fulfilled. So if you feel fear right now, good. That means you're human. But fear isn't your enemy, it's your signal. It's telling you where to go, not where to hide. Everything you want lives on the other side of that fear. The love, the success, the impact, the freedom. You think courage feels good? No, it feels terrifying. But it's the only path worth walking. And if you don't take that path, someone else will. Someone else with less talent, but more hunger. Someone else who decided they'd rather die chasing something they believe in than rot in a life they settled for. You've got breath in your lungs. You've got time on the clock. That means you've still got a shot. So stop waiting, stop hesitating, stop lying to yourself that this version of life is good enough. You weren't born for average. You weren't designed to shrink. You're meant to rise, to evolve, to become the person you were always capable of being. But that version of you isn't handed to you. It has to be built. It has to be earned. And it starts the moment you say, I'm done waiting, I'm going in. Because if you don't, you already know how this ends. I remember sitting in a small apartment, staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. Not because I couldn't sleep, because I wouldn't sleep. I had nothing. I had no rich parents, no support, no backup plan. Just a relentless ache inside me, a hunger I couldn't silence. I was dead broke, had bills piled on the table like a deck of cards, relationships falling apart because I was too obsessed with my vision, and a voice in my head screaming that if I didn't move now, I'd be stuck there forever. And here's the truth no one wants to hear. That moment, that pressure, that chaos, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because in that moment, I learned what most people never understand. When your back is against the wall, when no one's coming to save you, when every fake friend disappears and all the distractions fade, what's left is you. Just you. And you find out exactly who you are when the lights are off and the excuses are gone. That's where you discover your real strength. Not when everything's going your way, but when everything's going against you and you still refuse to fold. Most people avoid that moment their entire lives. They run from discomfort, chase quick highs, seek safety like it's some kind of victory. But comfort is a slow poison. It kills your drive. It softens your edge. It turns lions into house cats. And I wasn't about to live like that. I remember walking to a job I hated, every step feeling like a death sentence. I looked around and saw a sea of lifeless faces, people who gave up on their dreams decades ago but kept pretending they were okay. They talk about the weekend like it was salvation. They gossip about celebrities, cling to the lottery, chase cheap dopamine to distract themselves from the reality they built. And I thought to myself, this can't be life. Like, this can't be why I'm here. I knew I wasn't meant for that cage. I knew I had more in me, and I wasn't going to wait for permission to become who I needed to be. So I made a decision. Not some cute New Year's resolution, a real decision. The kind that changes your DNA. I decided I would rather bleed chasing greatness than suffocate living average. I started waking up before the sun. I cut off every voice that fed doubt into my mind. I trained like a madman. I studied, I executed, I failed. Then I got up and did it again. And while others were talking, I was moving. While they were resting, I was building. While they were looking for motivation, I was creating results. And slowly the gap widened. What was once just a dream became my standard. What used to scare me became my playground. What once looked impossible became normal. And not because I'm special, but because I was willing to pay the price. People see the end result and they think it's magic. They think success just happens. No, it's war. It's waking up tired and still putting in the work. It's sacrificing what's easy for what's necessary. It's missing out on temporary pleasure to build permanent power. It's saying no when everyone else is saying yes to mediocrity. And when I say I've suffered for this, I mean it. I've buried versions of myself to evolve. I've walked alone through storms of uncertainty with nothing but belief in my spine. And that pain, that isolation, it built me. It taught me how to carry weight without breaking. It taught me how to command my own respect. It taught me that no one is coming to give you a crown. You forge it with your bare hands. There's a reason I speak the way I do, because I've lived it. This isn't theory. This isn't some feel-good philosophy. I've seen what happens when you bet on yourself with everything you got. I've seen the shift, the mental transformation from victim to victor, from doubt to dominance, from fear to fire. And that journey, it's available to anyone. I'm not a unicorn. I'm not a lucky lottery ticket. I'm a man who refused to be ordinary. And the truth is anyone can make that choice, but most won't, not because they can't, but because they won't get uncomfortable. They won't embrace the grind. They want success without sacrifice. They want growth without pain. But that's not how it works. You want a life worth living, you're going to have to burn for it. But here's the beauty. Once you've gone through the fire, nothing scares you anymore. You become unshakable. You walk different. You speak different. You carry yourself like a man who knows who he is because you've earned it. You didn't steal it. You didn't fake it. You built it. That's what gives your life meaning. That's what turns a dream into a legacy. That's what separates the ones who wish from the... You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need approval. You don't need to wait. You need to move. Start where you are. Use what you have. Become obsessed with the process. Because if you do it right, if you suffer with intention, if you embrace the pain instead of avoiding it, you'll wake up one day and realize you're unrecognizable. And the people who once doubted you, they'll either hate you or worship you, but they won't be able to ignore you. This is your story. And right now, it's being written in real time. You decide how it ends. You don't realize how fast time disappears until it's already gone. One moment, you're young and full of dreams, blink, and 10 years evaporate into nothingness. Not because life is unfair, not because someone held you back, but because you kept saying, I'll start tomorrow, because you thought you had time. You thought motivation would come knocking at your door like some miracle, but it doesn't. It never has. And one day you're going to sit in silence and wonder where it all went, where your fire died, where your ambition was buried, where the life you imagined got replaced by one you settled for. And that moment will eat you alive, not because you failed, but because deep down, you never even tried. Do you know how dangerous that is? Living a life where regret shows up in the mirror more often than pride. You wake up and feel the weight of your own potential rotting inside you. You scroll past people doing what you dream of, not because they're better, not because they had more help, but because they had the guts to face discomfort while you avoided it. That pain, that's not something you outrun. It follows you, it haunts you, it creeps into every silent moment, every failed relationship, every dream deferred. You can lie to your friends. You can lie to your parents. You can lie to the world, but you can't lie to yourself. And that inner war, it destroys men more than failure ever could. People don't fear death. They fear reaching the end and realizing they were never alive. They fear the truth they buried under excuses. That they could have been great but chose comfort. That they had chances but played it safe. That their whole life was one long negotiation with fear, and fear won. What eats you isn't that you didn't become a millionaire or get the mansion or drive the Ferrari, is that you knew you could and you didn't. That you had the talent, you had the time, but you chose Netflix over effort. You chose approval over authenticity. You chose habits that numbed you instead of ones that made you powerful. And here's what's even worse. You think you're waiting for the right time, but the clock doesn't stop ticking just because you're undecided. Every day you hesitate, someone else is getting ahead. While you scroll, someone is building. While you delay, someone is dominating. While you question yourself, someone else is cashing in on the very idea you've been too scared to chase. You think life gives you second chances? Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the door closes and never opens again. And you'll never know how far you could have gone because fear convinced you to stand still. Let that sink in. Not acting is a choice. And it's the most dangerous one of all. But there's another side to this. A side no one talks about because they've already quit on themselves. That side is what happens if you do act. If you stop waiting, stop doubting, stop living like a ghost in your own story. What happens if you take all that frustration, all that anxiety, all that wasted energy and channel into something real? You don't need a map, you need momentum. You need to wake up and realize that your pain isn't a curse, it's fear. That anger you feel when you see someone living the life you want, that's your soul screaming, that should be me. And you're right, it should be. But only if you're willing to burn your excuses and get to work. The world doesn't care how you feel, it only responds to action. You can cry, complain, post quotes, talk about goals, but none of it means anything unless you move. Success isn't a mood, it's a lifestyle. It's not about waiting for everything to align, it's about forcing your life into alignment by doing what others won't. And the moment you realize that your power isn't in your circumstances, but in your choices, that's the moment everything changes. Because from that point forward, you stop being a victim, you stop being a bystander, you become a force. The kind of person who walks into a room and shifts the entire energy because you've earned your presence. And nobody can fake that. Nobody can take that. That's built in the fire. If you don't rise now, then when? When you're older? When you've got more responsibilities? When you're even more broken down? That day doesn't exist. You've been fed a lie that the right time is coming. It's not. The right time is when you say enough, when you draw the line, when you stop running. Because if you don't claim your future, someone else will decide it for you, and they won't have your best interests in mind. They'll hire you to build their dream while yours collects dust, and you'll call it stability. You'll tell yourself you're lucky to have a paycheck while your soul starves to death in silence. You don't need more time, you need more urgency. You need to feel the weight of what's at stake. You need to picture the version of you 10 years from now, eyes filled with regret, heart heavy with could have beens, and ask yourself if that's a man you're proud of. Because he's coming. The question is whether he'll be a king or a prisoner of his own inaction. That's on you. Right now, you've got two options. You either stay the same and accept mediocrity, or you wake the hell up and fight for the life you know you were meant to live. You can't control everything, but you can control your discipline. You can dominate your time. You can silence your fear by outworking it. That's how you win. Not by magic, not by motivation, but by deciding every day that you're done losing. Your future is not a fantasy, it's a demand. And if you don't respond to it, someone else will take what was meant for you. Forever. People think motivation is a feeling. It's not. It's a choice. A man who waits to feel good before he acts is already defeated. Because life will test you on days when you feel like nothing. The world will beat you down without warning, and if you only rise when it's easy, you will stay average forever. Motivation is forged in discomfort. It's built in the days when everything hurts and you still move forward. It's not about being excited. It's about being relentless. It's about waking up exhausted and still honoring the commitment you made to yourself when you were strong. That's what separates the winners from the watchers. The people who speak and the people who do. Every great man you admire was once just a guy who kept showing up when no one was watching, when no one clapped, when no one believed, but he kept going because he believed. And you can lie to everyone around you, but you can't lie to yourself. You know what you're capable of. Deep down, under the laziness, under the fake smiles, under the pretending, you know there's more. There's a version of you that's sharp, disciplined, untouchable. But that version doesn't come out when you play it safe. That version is hiding behind hard decisions, behind early mornings, behind painful sacrifices. And until you step into discomfort, you will never meet him. You'll spend your life wondering what he looks like while another man who had less talent and less opportunity takes your spot because he was hungry. And hunger beats potential every single time. That's the truth. You don't need to be the smartest or the fastest. You just need to refuse to quit. The problem is you've been conditioned to believe that being average is okay, that being good enough is something to be proud of. Society has lied to you. They told you that effort without result deserves a trophy, that failure is something to hide from. But I'll tell you what's worse than failing. It's being forgotten. It's living an entire life where no one remembers your name because you were too scared to make noise. You never stood up. You never pushed back. You let the current drag you because you were afraid of making waves. And now you wonder why the ocean feels cold. You're not drowning because life is hard. You're drowning because you refuse to swim. You want real motivation? Look at where you are. Look at your habits. Look at the life you're tolerating. And then ask yourself if it's worthy of the man you know you could be. If not, then why do you keep living it? Why do you keep repeating the same day and calling it progress? You don't need a life coach. You don't need another podcast. You need courage. Courage to admit you've been playing small. Courage to cut off distractions. Courage to lose sleep now so you never lose peace later. It's not complicated. You either suffer the pain of growth now or suffer the regret of staying the same for the rest of your life. There is no third option. There's no comfortable road to greatness. I'm telling you this because I've been where you are. I've sat in silence, staring at the wall, questioning if I had what it takes. I felt that doubt crawling in like a sickness, telling me to quit, to rest, to slow down. But I didn't listen. I fought it. I bled for it. And that's why I win. Not because I'm special, not because I was chosen, but because I chose myself every single day, even when it made no sense, even when everyone thought I was insane. You don't need permission. You need obsession. The kind of obsession that makes you immune to distraction. The kind of obsession that makes you dangerous because you're not just chasing a goal, you're chasing your destiny. And yes, you will lose people along the way. You will outgrow friends who laugh at your ambition. You will disconnect from family members who tell you to be realistic. That's the price of excellence. You will have nights where you eat alone, days where your body aches, mornings where the alarm hits like a hammer. But let me tell you something. That pain is proof. Proof that you're in the fight. Proof that you're transforming. And one day, the people who doubted you will pretend they always believed. The people who ignored you will beg for your time, and the life you once dreamed of will be the life you live. Not because of luck, because you earned it. You think greatness is reserved for the chosen few? It's not. It's reserved for the disciplined, for the obsessed, for the ruthless man who refuses to let weakness win, for the guy who walks into a room and doesn't need to speak because his results scream for him. You don't need to explain yourself when you've got proof. The world respects results. They don't care how hard you tried. They care what you built, what you conquered, what you became. And if you want to become the kind of man who commands respect, then you got to stop looking for shortcuts. Burn the map. Walk into the storm. And dominate whatever stands in your way. Your dreams are not negotiable. They're not suggestions. They are demands placed inside you for a reason. And every day you delay, they grow colder until one day they die. And you're left with a life that's technically fine but spiritually bankrupt. That is the worst fate a man can endure. Living in a body that's alive but carrying a soul that gave up. Don't let that happen. Don't sell your fire for comfort. Don't sell your hunger for likes. Don't let a single wasted day turn into a wasted life. You are capable of more. Not because I say so, but because deep down you know it. Now prove it. This is your moment. I don't care what excuses you built up in your mind over the years. I don't care how many times you've been knocked down or how often you failed. I care about right now. Because in this exact second, you have a choice. A decision that will define you for the